I was just watching an interview on Lex Friedman's YouTube channel with Jeff Bezos. And he made a really interesting point talking about like one of the core tenets of Amazon that I didn't understand at first. But the more I've been thinking about it, the more I realize, wow, this is so relevant to us resellers. I mean, no question. So I just wanted to share that today, hang out with you guys a little bit as I'm going through some of this buy list stuff. This one's from Daniel, a $900 submission. And he says, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well, Daniel. Looks like we have some very carefully packed items here, which is nice to see. If I remember this right, forgive me if I butcher the wording, but one of the core philosophies of Amazon is a general posture of skepticism towards proxies. I heard that and I was like, what is that? What are you talking about, proxies, posture? I don't know what you're talking about. A little bit of an unfortunate note here to start off. You can tell that this Game Boy SP, this is actually a Japanese version. I don't know if this is a Japanese original or a Japanese reproduction or a Japanese reshell. Hopefully you guys can read that text there on the bottom. You can also tell because it doesn't open as far as a regular SP would. I do know that some Amazon sellers will sell Japanese models pretty consistently. So far we haven't. This one, it also looks like the battery is completely spent, so I'll put this on the charger back here. But, oh, jeez. You guys are going to see me actually end up in the hospital in this video, tripping over my own bubble wrap bin. So, skepticism towards proxies. And he starts explaining this, like, the proxies that he's talking about are usually metrics. And in business, we face these really complicated problems. For example, how to maximize profits, how to maximize customer success, how to enhance, for those of you who have employees, employee satisfaction in the business. And oftentimes, over time, those ideas can get represented in a good and healthy way by certain metrics, right? And the example that he gave is like returns per 1,000 orders as a proxy metric to indicate customer success, to indicate customer happiness. But the problem arises when you get 2, 3, 5 years in, and that metric becomes so deeply ingrained as a quick and easy substitute that's much easier to understand than a complicated problem like customer happiness, that people mistake or people take at face value that proxy metric rather than the actual thing that they were optimizing for in the first place. And especially as businesses change and technology changes, staff turns over, maybe the guy who originally came up with that metric leaves, they often can become less and less relevant to the core thing that you're trying to optimize for. As I'm saying this, I'm realizing, unfortunately, this copy of Tetris has melted, it appears. Look at, can you guys see that? This thing looks like warped and melty on the bottom. Hopefully, I'm probably putting this way too close to the screen. I know it's on zoom out mode right now. That's a little bit unfortunate to see. We'll put that in the pile with the SP. I'm not sure yet what we're going to do about those. Where did I put that SP now? Did I throw that thing away? Oh, yeah, it's charging. This is what happens when I try to shoot a video and do actual work at the same time. But I just heard this and I was like, I've got to share this. I've got to share this with my fellow resellers and fellow friends on ReNXP Sale. And this got me thinking, as resellers, what are our proxy metrics? What are the things that we are tempted to look at? The numbers that are fancy and easy to understand that we put too much weight on, that we go to as a symbol of success rather than looking at a much more complex underlying issue. the first thing I thought of was sales. How many of us are absolutely addicted to having our phones ding, right? With the little cha-ching or whatever, sound that you have set to when you make an eBay sale or an Amazon sale or whatever. How many of us are totally addicted to that, to the point where we may even do extra work and list things that we probably shouldn't in order to be able to hear more of that sound and feel like our business is growing, even if in order to get there, we've dropped our standards, if we're being honest. We've spent time working on things that really are not the most productive tasks that we could be pursuing. For example, maybe you get in a large collection and you tell yourself, okay, anything that's under $10, I'm not going to touch. This is going to go right to the game store. It's going to go right to Goodwill to be donated. Go right to my other reseller friend who likes to deal in low dollar stuff. I'm not going to touch that because the time that is involved per listing on $10 and under items is not worth it for me. And I need to spend that time sourcing, because if you're in the video game niche especially, finding profitable items can be pretty tough. It's very competitive, right? But how often do we sacrifice because we like having consistent sales every day? We like hearing the cha-ching. We like being able to say, hey, look at my 90-day total. I'm sure successful, aren't I? Even though some of the actions that we have taken to get there have required compromise, have required sacrifices that we shouldn't have made. Guilty. Guilty is charged on that one. Thank you, Jeff, for that reminder. What else? What other metrics? Oh, here's a big one. Listings, right? Total number of active quantity listed. Having a large store. How many of us prioritize that for some stupid reason, some like clout reason, some like way of patting ourselves on the back for, oh, I promised that I would get up 20 listings a day, so by golly, I'm going to do it. And okay, this is interesting. Thank you, Michael. You actually labeled that this one needs to be resurfaced. So apparently anticipating we do I think $5 deduction for discs that need resurfacing. Oftentimes, like people will just send us send us their stack of discs and, say, it's kind of up to you. But it's cool that I'm actually curious now. Let's take this thing out and see how bad it actually is. I've seen worse copies, but this definitely would go into the resurface pile. So good call on that one, Michael. And these other Game Boy games, by the way, we've got a couple copies of Donkey Kong. We've got Mario Land 1 and 2. Absolutely quality bread and butter video games there. And then this looks like, honestly, really solid condition stack of Contra, Donkey Kong, Mario Bros. 2. What other metrics are there? There's total sales. There's total listings. I don't think that profit is a bad... Like, how could profit be bad? How could profit be a superfluous proxy for something different? I think profit's good. I think if you're tracking profit and your profit's going up, like, you're probably doing something right, unless you're not, like, truly factoring everything into your profit, as my comments so often like to remind me, you're not factoring in the gas money. You're not factoring in the wear and tear on your card you're using to go to the thrift stores. These are looking solid. Usually what we'll do just as a default when cartridges come in, because if we don't use this practice, we tend to get much higher return rates on cartridges, is we'll just take, everybody knows, like the good old Q-tip and the isopropyl alcohol. The specific method that we use to clean a large stack of these, we'll get this bad boy wet and we'll use the stack method, right? So rather than like pick one up and then, get in there, kind of look and see, and then go on the bottom side and then, set it back down on the other stack. We'll just put them all like this, and then one at a time. I'm obviously twisting it to show you guys. one at a time, just going whoop, top row, whoop, the back side, and then just go down the row so that there's minimal time in between restacking games. Those are the kinds of tweaks that we're making right now at Phoenix Resale to try to optimize ourselves in every tiny little way, because as I've talked about on here before, the current goal is not necessarily to scale and become a titan in the industry. Ooh, that's not actually that wet. I might need to redo that after we're done here. The goal is to ideally not grow beyond Spanky and I. Spanky is out, unfortunately, with a sick kid today. So it's just you and little old me here going through a little buy list order. This is the third one of the day. And so far, the first two have been really good. It makes my day when we just have like really clean submissions of inventory that just doesn't need any modifications, doesn't need any deductions. This one, we'll have to see. Let's see if that SP charges up here. Because the thing is, like, and this is a, or at least normally, interesting. Okay, so part of the reason that the Japanese Pearl Blue SP specifically is so much cheaper is that it's not, at least this one, is not backlit. I'm not sure if this was sold in Japan originally like this, or if that does kind of confirm maybe this could be a reshell. Because you can tell when you look down at an angle that this is front lit. It's lit kind of in front of the screen going up that way, rather than from the back. Why am I explaining that? So this, honestly, I don't think this is the kind of thing that we could send into Amazon. We've definitely been wrestling with what should be the standard practice in terms of returns when people do send in items like this. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Michael didn't even realize that this was not a standard Pearl Blue SP. I'm curious, was this listed as a 101? No, he listed it as just a regular GBA SP, which we pay $85 for rather than the $95 for the 101s. So he knew, it seems, that this was front lit, although this is not a standard color for a front lit model. Those are only what? Cobalt, flame red, onyx, and silver. Is it silver or platinum? I can't remember. So I'm not really sure. Like, this is a problem that we haven't run into. And here's the biggest issue, like, in terms of systems management. I know we're getting into the real juicy stuff here on ReNXP Sale today. Oh boy, video game reseller systems management. Yay, get your popcorn, honey. The thing we've been scratching our heads over is like, okay, when we get an item like this, what do we do? Because we're trying to optimize for two things. One is efficiency. And efficiency might be the single most important thing of all, because as a two-man operation, we've got probably 50 to 100 reseller partners now that are sending us inventory somewhat regularly. If our operation isn't as efficient as possible, the only thing we're going to have to do is lower prices on the buy list and get less inventory in, which we don't want to do because that doesn't serve our partners well. The other option would be to offer returns on when people do send us inventory that doesn't comply with like the general standards. This might be something that we need to be more explicit about. I think on somewhere it says USA versions only, but if not, maybe we need to add that and just figure out what's the process for, because in order to achieve maximum efficiency, you want to do 0 returns. Every time you return something to someone, it involves multiple layers of correspondence, figuring out what their accurate return address is. Usually it'll be on the box, but you want to confirm that. Then shipping it to them, then deducting the return shipping, and it's a whole hassle, and it makes the whole process less efficient. But if you don't offer returns on stuff, it's a significant impediment for partner happiness in long term, right? We want everyone who sends us stuff and does business with us, even if they mess something up, something small like this, to be happy with how the outcome is so that they send us stuff again. That's the whole philosophy of Phoenix Resale. We prioritize repeat business over short-term profits. We've got some N64 games here that all are in really solid shape. We'll have to put these in the stack to, get swabbed. But it looks like the pins on, yeah, they're pretty average wear on the pins. We've got, what is that? WCW, Jet Force Gemini, and NFL Blitz. This one sells weirdly fast on Amazon, like for multiple years. I don't know why. So we've got a tough question, right? Do we preserve efficiency and therefore preserve buy list prices, or do we risk someone being dissatisfied if we do a deduction automatically on an item like this rather than a return? And on something like this, like we can't, it'd probably be at least a 50% deduction, because we're just going to end up selling this at cost to a game store. We don't have a department that we can send this to go and like properly reshell this into an actual 001 model. We're just going to have to liquidate it. So it doesn't make sense for us to pay the full 85 and take a huge loss on it because someone sent us the wrong item that doesn't comply with the standards. So it feels kind of like a lose-lose situation. Overall, like where we've landed with it is usually on someone's first submission, we'll say, hey, we're going to return this to you as a courtesy. Normally, this is not something that we do. And that's sort of the medium land where we're trying to preserve, especially that first impression, as much as possible. Get people paid as much as we possibly can for using our system and trusting us with your inventory and being willing to be our partner in the first place, because we really appreciate that. But also long-term protecting the efficiency of our system, and therefore also protecting the prices that we're able to offer on goods and services. That was one of the most esoteric reseller rants I've ever gone on this channel. For those of you who are still around in this video, pat yourselves on the back, because you are part of the few and the proud. And if you are a female who's still watching in this video, you're part of the 4%, I think 4.8% of women who watch this channel. So you are even part of the fewer and the prouder, and I salute you. Apparently, not all that many ladies are interested in looking at this ugly mug for any longer than necessary. Has nothing to do with the fact that this is video game flipping content, which tends to be much more male heavy. All right, so now we're getting into the disc-based games, and I'm curious to see here. It doesn't look like he has marked any of these as needing resurfacing, so let's see. Starting out with a huge banger here. Def Jam. This is one of the more expensive games that we do buy, and it still sells pretty quick. So this is like kind of best case scenario for us, although this is interesting. We've got a greatest hits disc with a non-greatest hits case. I don't think that really matters. I don't think most Amazon buyers really care. One thing that I'm really excited about in version 2. That's fine. In version 2.0 of the buy list that is coming, I think I've mentioned to you guys before, in app form, is we're adding the ability to sell us, what are these called? Disc-based games with no manual. So right now you'll notice that for all of these, it's currently part of our buy list parameters that we only accept complete games. But soon enough, we will be accepting. This one doesn't count because it never came with a manual, so this is still complete. I'm forgetting to actually look at the discs on these. You guys are making me screw up here. I'm being a little bit naughty right now. That's going to effectively double the number of games that people can theoretically send us that they get in, because, let's face it, when you buy a large collection, when you get a lot on Facebook Marketplace, whatever, a lot of stuff's probably not going to have the manual because most normal people don't care about that stuff. And that'll significantly broaden the number of games that people can send to us, and be a really solid feature. Oh, I'm excited for it. Like, it's been 9 months in the making, but dude, this app, I think it'll really change things for people. Maybe I'm tooting my own horn. Maybe I'm being a little overly optimistic with my rose-colored glasses. Are any of you guys addicted to Celsius, by the way? I have one of these just about every day. Not sponsored. although I definitely would take one. And they actually do sponsor creators. I've seen them do some creator sponsorships. This is the last thing that I want to say. By the way, Michael, these discs are looking impeccable. Well done. The last thing I want to say is this little 8-ounce bottle of Goo Gone I have literally had since the start of my reseller career 5 years ago. You want to know how? You want to know how that's possible? I'll give you guys a little hack here. Right when I got it, I took a little toothpick and poked a hole, a tiny little hole. I don't know if you guys can even see that in the top, rather than peeling this whole thing off. And now every time I need some, this is like the cheapest thing I have ever confessed. So you guys are lucky, the few, the proud who are still here. Every time I need some, I'll get, the paper towel and just dab a little bit. I don't even allow any airspace. But this is the most Scrooge-like thing I've ever said in public. And as a result, I never get more Goo Gone than I need. And this $4 bottle has lasted me 5 years. You're welcome.